Good evening and welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. This is TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion will be focusing on one of the three major phases within the Cluster B narcissistic personality disordered relationship, which is the second one called Devalue. We know the first one, which is Idealization, which can make it difficult in real life if you do come across a new person who's romantically interested in you. They seem a little bit too enthusiastic about how perfect you are for each other after one or two meetings. That can trick anybody, or it could be real. You never know. However, when you've experienced enough of these things, eventually you start to feel it, that this is phony, this is too good to be true. This is designed for those of you who may have fallen into this devalue phase. I'm going to discuss what it looks like and provide some real-life examples. I saw online in a forum somebody asked, what are the characteristics of a devalue? I figured I'd answer it here, from my viewpoint at least. What will often happen is these creatures, for example, let's say you're a guitar player, you meet this new person, and this person acts fascinated with your guitar. Oh, play the guitar for me, play it, oh, teach me how to play it, oh, teach me how to play it. Which can be a ploy just to get more time with you if they've decided that you're the one they want to pursue for their supply source. Once you've gone into that phase of the idealization, which includes that love-bombing behavior, which is very difficult to deal with because somebody's being nice to you. How do you object to someone being nice? That's where they get you. Because you're going to look unstable if someone is nice to you and you say, why would you do that nice thing for me? This must mean something's wrong. You must be a creature. And they will be quick to tell you,
oh, you're just thinking about the exes you were involved with. I'm not like them.
That passes, and you sometimes develop a routine with this person, whoever it may be. When the devaluation starts, things begin to change, and it's a very slow process usually. So it's difficult to pick out in some cases. To our example with the guitar, though, in the beginning they may act fascinated about it, and then later you may find them saying,
oh, I'm going to leave.
Why?
I'm sick of hearing that guitar. It makes too much noise.
Of course, you're thinking to yourself, one of the first things I liked about this person was they really liked my guitar playing, and now they don't. And that can cause you to think that there's something wrong with your guitar playing, or that maybe it used to be good and now it's bad, or any number of things, especially if they're sweet and nice in other ways. But then you notice these little pieces here and there, such as the annoyance with your guitar playing. Another thing they can do is create an illusion which involves triangulation with other people, family, friends, yours, or that other person's. But a lot of times what they'll try to do is maintain their fake persona with you, but they'll tell you that, oh, those friends of mine that you didn't know before, for example, they think that you're strange. Some kind of information to deter you from wanting to interact with whoever these people are. Typically that's because the other people know what they're up to, and they're afraid if you get in too good with these new people, you might overhear something or be told something that you're not supposed to know, because these people are children that keep multiple storylines going at the same time. They do have their flying monkeys or their peers, and they don't want that information to be shared with you because it might destroy their mission, which is their agenda to prey upon you without you knowing and disguise it as love. I was involved with a creature that worked in a business with a bunch of people, and I was told something very similar to that.
My peers think that you're weird.
And maybe there's some kind of joke or something I would say regularly, and at the beginning it would be laughed at, but then I'd do it later and I'd be told,
they think that that's weird.
And all of a sudden the person seems to be like changing their views. You don't know what the deal is because you're being you, which may involve some kind of twisted humor, and they may love,
I love your sense of humor.
You continue with your sense of humor, and all of a sudden
they think that your sense of humor is weird.
And that can make a person self-conscious, especially if it's another group that you're not a part of and the other person is. It'll cause division. It'll make it so you don't want to see those other people, which I fell for that one. I thought this whole group of people were all evil. If I had to see them, I would just keep the conversation to a minimum and be thinking the whole time these people are fake. And I fell for that stuff, and the thing was, they weren't. They were actually nice. I learned that much later. So be careful if you're involved with someone and they try any even subtle way to influence your opinion, steer your opinion towards someone else that they're closer to than you are in any type of way that's derogatory or negative. I would just say, well, I'll have to see that first and experience it before I'll believe it, but you don't have to tell them that. Just keep it in mind. As it turned out, those people that I was not to associate with knew all kinds of dirt that I would be privy to if I became good friends with them. And we were having a random conversation, it would come up, and these creatures can't have that. They have to maintain their compartments. They start criticizing things that they used to like, now they don't. They will behave differently and find flaws in things they never did before. Like if you handle things in a certain way, and you always have, the person's been around seeing you handling things in this way, and it's never been a problem, but then all of a sudden it is. They invent little things to gripe about, things that you've done all along that all of a sudden aren't good anymore. And that's difficult to take too, because if you're meeting someone and showing them who you are for real and they're accepting you, well then you're accepting that they're accepting you, so you don't expect them to later pick something you've done the whole time and all of a sudden say there's something wrong with it. You would think if there's something wrong with it in their view that they would have said something at the beginning. But these creatures don't. At the beginning, anything and everything you do is perfect. If you're the chosen #1 supply source, they'll put up with anything. In fact, I've tested a few and I've done deliberately annoying things just to see what they do, and they always just pretend like everything's just fine, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not a real person. That thing I just did was the most irritating thing you could do, and they just act like it's perfect and it's fine. And
oh, I'm in love with you.
No. Eventually you get to a point where these little criticisms come about various things, and usually things that weren't a problem before. And after a while, when you're listening to this talk from them, you will start to see flaws in their logic and their reasoning. Like that example I just said. If you mention, hey, I remember the first time you came here, you were really fascinated with that guitar. Now all of a sudden
You're not?
What's the deal? They'll have some kind of response, but it won't tell you anything important. That's one example, but there'll be plenty of others, especially inconsistencies with these creatures, because they can't keep their stories straight. They've got different stories going everywhere. Sometimes you will hear them speaking negatively to you, criticizing you, and you may think about what they've said and say, look, we need to discuss this. And then you may try to use logic and reasoning and say, well, this is the way things had been and this is the way they are now. Nothing has changed on my end, but all of a sudden you're acting like it's a... And if you try to pull logic in and reasoning, make complete courtroom-style sense of something involving their behavior and how it's irrational and how it's wrong of them to be criticizing you now for something they used to like. If you attempt this with these creatures, you'll soon realize that there is not going to be any kind of resolution or getting the person to see your view. They basically do whatever they want. When you start to point out and say, look, you keep criticizing me over this, but... and then you try to discuss it, guess what that means to these creatures? You have no right to voice your opinion about something they've done. They're the only ones who, they believe, can voice an opinion. If you come back to them and try to logically discuss it, even in a friendly way, guess what? They will view that as you picking at them or criticizing them or insulting them. And this will continue. This is so different from that love bombing crap that you were experiencing. Back in those days, if you had any kind of issue or problem, the person would be all ears and would do anything they could to solve or resolve the problem. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen with these creatures, which is difficult because when you've been brainwashed all this time where you can do no wrong, but now all of a sudden all you do is wrong, and you try to make sense of it with them, they will say,
there you go again, criticizing me again. Why don't you just drop this subject? I told you the reason, blah, blah, blah.
And they don't ever resolve anything. This causes devaluation of your own self-worth because here you are presenting yourself as who you are, and it's no longer good enough. And you may think, well, maybe I've changed and I'm not good anymore, but usually you haven't. They have. You've remained the same person, consistent, but their views change, and all of a sudden you're supposed to adapt, and it's sick. I've experienced a lot of cases where I can listen to a conversation or I can hear the creature say something to criticize something I've done, and I can think of like 10 examples of where this creature did the very same thing, if not worse, whatever it is that they're saying I did. And when you say, look, you keep making a big deal about this, but what about these times? And you try to discuss other situations that are equivalent or worse than what you've done, and they won't hear it. They will say, oh, would you stop that? Or they want to silence it. They don't want to take part in like a dual discussion where both parties are equal, and if one has a viewpoint, then they share it and the other does the same, which makes resolution of problems very difficult. What can often happen is maybe you've got a real big beef with something that they're criticizing, and you know that it's wrong. You can tell that it's wrong, and the sick part is if it was somebody else and they were watching another couple with this problem, they'd be able to solve it immediately by just saying, oh, well, here's the logical answer. But strangely, when it's in your relationship with this creature, it's a completely different story. It's a dead end as far as they're concerned. I used to sit down on my own, recall certain conversations, and then think about them and realize that this is completely inconsistent. This person is daring to criticize this when these particular things went on previously. I'm going to have a discussion. And you think that you're going to be able to show these people the light, and they're going to hear what you've said and say,
oh, that's right. Oh, my goodness. Shame on me. Oh, I'm going to fix this.
No, they don't say that. They will just attack you and accuse you of putting them down. which is not productive and not the case. But one particular one I knew was pretending to be a specific type of person from the first day, and I could see right through it. I could see examples. I'd pick up more as time went along. The more I learned about the person, the more a different picture emerged from the one that they were trying to present as the truth. I would be trying to get this creature to get in line with reality. If it tells me it's a certain way, I'm going to say, look, I know you say that you're a certain way, but I'm going to name 10 things here that I've observed, and those 10 things don't fit in that particular way. And I'm looking for them to say,
Oh, that's right. Oh, let me revise my self-presentation. Let me update who I tell you I am now. And
there's no such thing with these people. But it's a nice fantasy to wish for, but it just doesn't ever happen. Sometimes it really bothers us. I'm the type of person that really wants to get to the bottom of something, and if I can clearly see the flaws, I think it would be brought out in the open. Both parties would see it, agree on at least something, and understand that if one person's in the wrong, then they'll own up to it, but these people are never wrong. Even when it would be wrong if somebody else did what they did to you to them, but it's not wrong when they do it. And that can be very frustrating, especially if you want to talk through. Many of us have had experience, and I've won in the past, like with just a friend. Maybe there's a disagreement with the friend. What I'll typically do in that case is realize my intentions are not harmful, they're positive, and this other person's overreacting inappropriately or inaccurately, so I will say, okay, let's have a discussion. And I'll say, here's the story, and I would spread it all out, and usually in normal interactions, the other person will be like,
oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Oh, thank you for telling me. Oh, I'm sorry, I was so evil.
and then they would get along with you. But that does not happen with these creatures. So you may be tempted to just drop it, because usually their compartmentalization ways make it so maybe your evening at the movies or romantic bedroom fun was great, but then these other things you can't let go of because you just want to resolve it to make everything smooth. You may sometimes be coerced into just keeping quiet about certain subjects. The problem is, eventually you're going to realize that, hey, this is phony. I'm avoiding the things that bother me, and I think we need to get this resolved. So then you try again, and they will attack again and say,
why do you bring this stuff up again?
And the thing is, they never resolve it with you. So you're going to bring it up until it's resolved, which in these cases it'll never be resolved. It simply creates a tension between the two of you, and it provides these creatures ways to smear your name to others, to tell other people how you just won't stop discussing certain subjects. Of course, they'll have an official answer for you, which doesn't say anything to you, but they'll have one. So then they can go to the peers and say,
he keeps bringing up this subject. I've told him this official story, and it still asks.
And the other person, not knowing what's going on, is going to listen and say, well, yeah, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just accept the official story? And it's like, the official story's fake. It's not real. You can't really explain it usually because they see a different side of the creature than you do. It'll just sound like you are thinking about things too much. And it's tough because you're not thinking about things too much. You want harmony and peace, and you want things to be right, but these creatures don't allow that. You can keep trying to discuss it, keep getting attacked and criticized and accused of bullying them, or you can just say, you know what, tonight I'm going to have a good evening. I just won't bring this up, and I'll just not discuss it. But see, that eats away at lots of us because we don't want to carry on knowing that this thorn exists. We want to pull that thorn out of our side and be rid of it forever. These creatures don't allow that, unfortunately. Sometimes it keeps going where you keep trying this battle, they keep resisting, and they may realize at some point that they've lost this game with you. Of course, it's not their fault. It's you. If you would just stop asking all these questions, stop trying to find out the answers to these things, and just accept whatever they tell you is truth. But when you've seen enough evidence to indicate it's not truth, some of us have a hard time doing that. We're going to say, look, I can't accept this as truth until you explain how this fits in with this that's inconsistent with this truth. They'll have some non-answer to give you or tell you you're thinking about things too much. And one of the worst things they do is when they lie about something and you foolishly continue to interact with them. Sometimes they lie about something major after telling you they'd never lie to you, and then after several months you finally find out the truth after you tried to find out that truth for the whole period in between then and now, and yet the truth finally comes out and they don't want to discuss it anymore. You're trying to get over it thinking, wait a second, I still can't understand, how could you have done this and said this when we talked about trust, honesty, and loyalty in the beginning, and this is anything but that. And then you'll hear,
I told you 1,000 times, why do you keep bringing that up?
and it's like, because it's bothering me and I want to resolve it. But they will have nothing to do with that. They will paint you out as the bad guy or the bad girl. Many times they will be seeking a new source of supply. And sometimes they've been doing it the whole time, or they've had several others on the side that you just don't know about. They may be gone for longer periods of time, and you may ask, are you messing around with others? Are you trying to do that?
No, what's wrong with you?
Truth is, they're not going to tell you if they are. And then, of course, don't be surprised if one day,
Oh, by the way, I'm leaving. I found someone else.
And you'll think, wait a second, all that time I asked you if you were pursuing someone else, you said no, but now you've got someone, what'd you do, just snapped your fingers and disappeared? And of course they're not going to tell you the truth. Or they'll say,
oh, well, we were just friends. We didn't ever kiss until I dumped you.
But another lie. What they're probably doing is they'll be pretending to keep up the status quo with you, even if you see these issues that aren't resolved, and think to yourself, well, if I was dating someone and I was that upset about what they were saying, I wouldn't keep sticking around, but this person is. They have tricks up their sleeves in many cases. So they may be grooming the next source, but they won't leave you until they've secured the new one.
Why is that?
Why? Well, because they cannot dare be on their own. They would rather keep you going and promise
we'll work things out eventually,
just to keep you there, to give them the roof over their head or whatever it is you're giving them, until they completely know that the other one's going to work. And what I've heard from the other side is they'll say things to this new potential supply.
Oh, I'm about to break up with my partner. I haven't yet, but I'm about to.
And if you hear that for someone you're meeting who's flirting with you, I would run, because that's the very same thing on the other end. They're stringing somebody along, testing out other people such as yourself. Your brain should just tell you that, let's say that I did get involved with this person. This is what I would have to look forward to down the road. Is them keeping you at home like they're doing to their current partner that you find out about later. And they'll try to say,
oh, but she's abusive. He's abusive to me. You're so wonderful.
You may think the person's wonderful too because you fell for the love bombing. You may be tempted to say, well, that person's just in the wrong relationship. I am the one they hadn't met yet, and now I'm here, so dump that lover. The same thing will happen to you. It just does. History repeats itself with these creatures. I know we'd love to think that we're the exception and that we're the one that's going to change everything because they just happen to get involved with the wrong people, but no. There is no right people for these creatures because they do the same things over and over. It never ends. Another thing these creatures will do is they'll know certain discussion points that you try to bring up that they don't want to cover. Sometimes what they'll do is press buttons. They know what really gets to you. They may bring up a discussion about one of those subjects that you feel really strongly about and present their fictitious view or their fictitious persona that you can see right through, and that is going to get you to respond with your view, which will come across as argument if it's a button they're pressing, something you really can't stand and they know it, but they bring it up and act innocent about it. That can push you to the point where you may get really mad and pound your fist on the table or scream or something, and they love to set you up like that in public or even in private just so they can run to their flying monkeys or your peers and say,
this person's unstable. I was trying to have a dinner with him and he slammed the table and screamed at me.
But of course they won't say what the deal was, that they were pushing a major button, and it's just a sickening game to these creatures because they're still children. They never turned into adults. But that is common, where they can further devalue you based on your reaction to them when you know that you've got your ducks in a row and you understand the situation, but this creature is pretending to be all perfect. You're seeing the flaws and trying to make sense of it all and straighten everything out. They won't have it. They will just paint you out as a bully. It's a no-win situation. It's lose-lose, and it's time to escape if you can, or if you even see evidence that this may be what you're involved in. It's a lot easier to get out now than it is to stick around longer, because the longer you stick around with a creature, the more difficult it usually is to get away from the creature. Cut your losses, and as I said before, don't sit there and tell them,
I think I'm going to dump you because you had said this and done this.
I wouldn't do any of that, because they'll have answers for all of it, and they'll paint you out as a bully again. So proceed in silence, and I would just get out and don't look back.
Ah, and the most beautiful Narcopath. People tell me they think I'm the devil. They actually think I'm possessed by the devil because I love to cause problems for people and ruin their lives. I love suffering.
Well, I guess I must be the devil. 666.
Satan.
Roseanne Barr, could you teach me how you made your deal with Satan when you were a teenager? I want to have my own show, too. And then have it canceled because of that Planet of the Ape Witch.
Is this Nexium? I am waiting for my delivery of living art, if you know what I mean, in the big box to my art gallery that's a front company.
Are you going to send the children? Are you going to send the living art or not? I don't care what's in the news. That does not affect me. I need my cheese pizza. I need it. Plus, I want to get some walnut sauce out of it, too. I got some really good torture for the torture chamber. Would you please work through this? What do I have to pay? Who do I have to have sex with? What do I have to do to get this done? I need my children. I know, I don't care. I'm not going to mess with your code words anymore. I want the kids. Where are they? And by the way, you tell your stupid media who insists that Hillary's not involved with this trafficking ring, they kind of got the wrong place. Doesn't sound like it? She's involved with a lot of the people there. A lot of them are big donators to her criminal cause. Yes, she's connected. Honey, I learned how to be creative from your all leaders' trainings, and I'm serious, because I can creatively destroy you. I'm going to report all of you. Do you understand? If you don't give me those kids, I will report your whole operation. How do you like that? Ugh.
When you're in love, you know you're in love, no matter what you try to do. You might as well resign yourself to what you're going through. If you're a hard man or if you're a child, it still might get to you. Don't kid yourself, you've seen it all before. A million miles have said that too. I've had my hard times in the past. I've been a husband and a lover too. I play alone and cry at night for the what love made me do. And the loved ones who let me down and couldn't share my point of view. But this is still talking. I wanna tell you what I found to be true. I love you, love action, lust just love, distraction, no talking, just looking, watching your